واحد واحد واحد. السلام عليكم. Hello everyone. One test. Yeah, sure.
Test. Yeah, I will. Yeah. How long?
Here, 20 minutes, 30 minutes.
To talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was planning. Yeah. I'm gonna with my mask off. I'm gonna take my mask off.
Yeah.
I can't talk.
Yeah. Take it off.
Yeah, I will. I'll start. Yeah. No, thank you. No, perfect. Thank you. Do you want to do an introduction? Go ahead and do something.
You may move the girl from front.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So you
Just
have
hold
to
that.
do that. Yeah. And you can wait from this. Looks like a question mark.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Put that down. You can just put that down.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته، وأسعد الله صباح الجميع بكل خير ونعمة. معكم أخوكم أنس بن عبد الرحمن الحنيحن من اللجنة التنفيذية للأولمبياد الوطني إبداع العلمي، وأيضا من البرامج البحثية وتنمية الابتكار بمؤسسة الملك عبد العزيز ورجاله للموهبة والإبداع. ويسعدنا ويشرفنا صراحة من مشاهدة العديد من المشاريع المتميزة، والتي إن شاء الله سنستكمل إن شاء الله العمل والاطلاع عليها بهدف تقديم التغذية الراجعة وتحسين جودة المدخلات اللي إن شاء الله تساهم إن شاء الله في إخراج جيل واعد من الباحثين والعلماء الشباب. يسعدنا بإذن الله إلقاء عدد من المهارات المطلوبة منكم، وأيضا عدد من التوصيات المطلوبة منكم للطلبة المشاركين وأيضا لبقية الحضور الحاضرين معنا عن بعد. ويساهم في ذلك سعادة الدكتور مارك أولساك، مستشار المؤسسة في البحث العلمي والابتكار في مؤسسة مركز ورجاله للموهبة والإبداع. فليتفضل الدكتور مارك. You might start.
Thank you very much, Engineer Anas, and thank you very much for being here on a Saturday. It's a weekend, right? It's okay though, thank you. It's really my pleasure to be here. I've been working with Mawhiba and Ibda and ISEF for 11 years now, I think? Yeah, 12 years, okay, 12 years. So I've seen students from this school go on to win at the Ibda competition and to win at ISEF. I'm sure you've heard of some of those students before. And then have gone on, not just talking about Ibda and ISEF, but have gone on to be undergraduates at universities in the United States, right? MIT, Berkeley, Cornell. You've seen all these, you've heard all these stories. So my whole presentation today, we're going to talk about the components of Ibda and the Science and Engineering Fair, but I want you to know it's not about winning. It's not about, oh, I want to get that first place award at Ibda. I got to get that first place award at Ibda. I got to get the first place at ISEF. I want to be on the stage and be a star, right? Be a reality star. It's scientific research and engineering is not about that. That it is certainly a way to present, to learn presentation skills, to learn communication skills. But this whole thing you're going through as students, and I've been through it, my children have been through it, been here 12 years, many students have gone through it. It's about the journey, right? It's about the journey of scientific research and engineering, because if you treat it as a journey, if you do a roadmap to this, you're going to learn so much more. You're going to learn so much more about your project, your content. You're going to learn so much more about the skills that you do, right, that you need, about the scientific methodology, about communication skills, about presentations, that you can use when you go to college, that you can use when you go and maybe perhaps become a master's degree or do a PhD or become a doctor or a lawyer or a businessman. You're going to use a lot of the skills that you learn in this journey for your future and to become future leaders. And that's what we're trying to do here is, yeah, we're going to talk about this as a science project today, but it's about the journey. And I've gone through that myself. When I was 10 years old, a little younger than you, my father took me to a mission in the Philippines, and it was dealing with leprosy. So it was a mycobacteria, the mycobacteria leprae. And I saw the patients. I saw all the patients that were having this debilitating disease because leprosy affects the bones, it affects the skin very, very badly. And it's not just physical, it's also emotional, because these leprosy patients are removed from their villages, removed from their families because it's a stigma. You know what stigma is? There's something wrong with this person, so we're not going to have them in our family anymore. So the whole thing is I saw a lot of physical ailment and emotional ailment. And that's, at 10 years old, I knew what I wanted to do the rest of my life. And not a lot of us have that, but it's lucky because you want to do what you love, right? You want to do what you have an interest in. So hopefully, like today when I was going around, I said, why did you do this project? What was your interest? Well, I had a relative that had Parkinson's, or I had someone that went through an issue with this, or I looked at energy statistics in Saudi Arabia. So my encouragement to you is, number one, make it a journey. Number two, make it something you want to do. Make it something of interest. Because if you don't like to do it, you just put your registration on IBDA and do the next step. You won't be happy about doing the project. So do something you're interested in. All right, so what I want to talk about, I think it's an appropriate time because you're all just kind of starting your projects and getting some ideas going. Some testing has been done if you've done a summer program at KAUST, or if you work with a mentor at Imam bin Abdul Rahman or maybe KFU PM. But I think it's a good time to go over what does a full project look like in terms of the components, okay? So I want to go through a few slides here today. I'm not going to take too much time, just about 15 minutes, and go through what the complete project components are as far as ISEF standards, okay? Because you want to look at best practices, right? Whenever you're doing scientific research or engineering, or even now it's computer, right? Computer and math. We've actually had 3 categories now of projects. You can do the scientific research, which is pure science, which is going through the methodology. I see some of those in here. Purpose, hypothesis, procedures, conclusion, did it prove or disprove? You have the applied sciences, right, which are more the innovations. I see some innovations here. You're doing a model, prototype, like the chair over here. You're doing a prototype, you're testing it, making sure it's the best it can be. And then now with the technology that's increasing, we see computer science, right? We see algorithms, we see machine learning, we see deep learning, reinforced learning, or there's another one now, RL. So you see all these algorithms, and what they're doing is they're taking computer science programming and putting it into real world applications. Like how can we see and look at databases? How we connect what's in a database to making predictions? So there's actually 3 areas that IBDA and ISEF are dealing with now. So we look at all the standards. What's the best of the best? How do you do and how do you create a project and develop a project that the judges will say, oh yeah, that's a complete project. You have to communicate it, of course, but it's a complete project as far as those standards. I have 2 of them. I built it on the slides on scientific and engineering. I'll address the computer science one, but these are kind of what the methods are in terms of both of them. So scientific, we look at the standard scientific methodology, as I said, purpose, hypothesis, procedure. They're inquiry-based projects. It's taking a research question and trying to answer that question. You have a controlled variable, and you're proving or disproving the prediction. So that's how things have been done. I do it in my lab. I have a lab of 20 or something individuals, and we do testing on the mycobacteria, tuberculosis, Borrelia ulcer, and leprosy. So we do a lot of the pure research. It's called pure research or scientific research. And then there's engineering, which is a standard engineering methodology, which is the material, the prototyping, the testing. Oh, it didn't work. We'll test it again, test it again, and try to get the best model, working model that we can at the end of the day. Okay? So what are the components of all these? Okay, well, how do you do a project? First of all is a research introduction, and that's when I'm going around asking students, well, what's the problem of this? What's the purpose? Why did you do this? What's the statistics? What are the big issues that are going on in this project? So that's the introduction. That's we call it almost the hook, right? When you're presenting is how are you going to get that person, whether it's a judge or an evaluator, to really understand, really get interest in your project, right? Because you've worked on this already for maybe a couple months now, or even a couple weeks. And so you've been ingrained in it. You know what that project is, but I'm coming here as someone new. I don't know anything about your project. So how do you make it make sense without getting too much detail? And I'm so confused. I don't know what this project is about. So it has to be something clear, something with background information, something that makes them say, oh yeah, I can understand that. I want to learn more. It's like the cover of a book, right? You want to have a really cool cover of a book, so I want to open that book. I want to open your book, right? And see what your project's about. So make it exciting, make it interesting. We have the research main body, which is the procedures, the experimentation, what you did, whether it's pure research or applied, or computer science, what you did and what the outcomes were, okay? We need data, and I ask everyone here, what's your data, right? Any student that I've talked to today already, what's your data, what are your numbers? How far have you gotten? I know some of you haven't gotten that far because it's early in the season, but you need data. You need lots and lots and lots and lots of data. Because the more data, everyone asks me, well, how many trials do I do? Do I have to do 3? Do I have to do 4? What's the number? Well, there's no number. There's no number to the amount of trials. But you want to do as many trials as you can because you want to produce significant data, right? You want to have significant data. Because if I do a trial 10 times, and this is the result, is good, but what if I do it 100 times, right? You're going to get more data, you're going to get more of that center line, more of that average is going to be more accurate in the data. So I encourage you, if you've run 10 trials, can I do 10 more? Can I do 10 more? Run as many trials as you can. You see some of the projects at ISEF, some of the students from here that have won at ISEF, they've done For example, plant science, there's one over there on the Striga. That student, one of the students did a project before, 400 plants, 450 plants. Or if they did a behavioral survey, 1,200 students they surveyed. I know it's a lot of work. I know you have your own, your own schoolwork, your own curriculum. But the more trials you can do, the better. Then, of course, you have the research conclusion, which is summing it all up. Bring it to a close. Bring the story to an end. You've talked about the introduction, the hook. You've run the data. What does it all mean? Right? What does it all mean? Tell me what you think it means. And tell me what you could have done differently. Oh, if I had more time, I would have run more trials, or I would have introduced a new variable, or you know, we didn't get this material yet, or the equipment wasn't ready. Tell us your problems. Tell us what happened. Tell us the challenges. We want to know, because everyone's going to have challenges. I have challenges in my lab work. You have challenges in your lab work. Tell us. We want to know. We want to know what those challenges were and how you overcame them as a scientist or an engineer or as a programmer. Okay? And then one of the most important things is project cohesiveness. And what do I mean by that? Is that sometimes a student starts out with a problem, talks about the purpose, does the experimentation on something different, and at the end they don't bring it all together. They don't talk about what happened during the project. So it's got to be something that, as a judge up there, that we have 10 minutes or 12 minutes to understand your project. You can't get too deep, or you can't lose us in going off the road, right? Stay on the same path, connect the dots, connect the beginning to the middle to the end, okay? Because we'll find out, and we'll say, well, what do you mean by this? Where did you get this data? What about this part? You mentioned in the beginning, but you didn't mention at the end. And one good way to do that also is to talk about future works. What are the next steps? So you talk about, here's where I got, here's what I'm going to do. I got a little bit more work to do, you know, step 1, step 2, step 3. And the biggest thing in all this, I'm going to tell you the secret, the one secret, but I need 100 reals first. 100 reals, 200 reals? No? For the secret of this whole endeavor, the secret of this whole project, for evaluating the project is one word. Anybody guess what the word is? What's the secret? What's the most important part of a scientific research project or engineering or innovation? What's the most important thing to make sure the judges know about what your project is? Huh? Sorry? Genuine? Genuine, yeah. Purpose, okay. Yeah. The problem, they're all good, yeah. Huh? Data, yeah, right. Hypothesis. Results. Getting there. Research, the background. Yeah. Conclusion, close. Functional? Like what? Okay. Huh? Effective?
The solution.
Solution, okay. Oh, I'll go over here. Yeah. Yeah. Novelty? You have to have a novel, right? It has to be novel, right?
Mistakes.
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 The state? Mistakes. Okay, right. Mistakes, making sure it's correct. Feasibility. What do you mean by that? Exactly.
In terms of financial standpoint, or how we fund it, or is sustainable?
Okay, yeah. Practicality is a practical, right? Will work in the real. Ah, okay. Getting close? Outcome. What do you mean by outcome? Okay, hold on to that one. Yeah. Experiments. Yeah, we talked about that.
Is it necessary?
Is it necessary? What do you mean? Yeah. Is there a reason to do it, right? So you got desirability, feasibility, and viability, right? You want to make sure projects like that. Trial by exactly, yeah. The what? Efficiency, right? Application? The real world? That's it right there. So you can do all this. You can say, and they're all important, all the data, all the analysis, all that's important, conclusion. But what he just said, what's the impact? Impact's the one word, impact. You know what impact means? What does it mean? What does it mean? Where's Dr. Isam? Is Isam here? He says this perfectly. I know you have a great way to say this, that why is KF UPM doing these researches? Why is SRSI doing these research? Why is Aramco doing these? Why? There's a reason that they're doing this research, right? It's not just to do a project and to have some fun and test and all that. It's all great. But there's an actual impact that these researchers are making, whether it's a small impact to get to that point or a large impact. But that's what the judges want to know. The biggest thing they want to know at IBDA, the biggest thing they want to know at ISEF is you've done this project on Parkinson's. Take me to the impact. What's going to happen, right? How can this affect me in the real world and my family in the real world? How can this affect Saudi Arabia, the Vision 2030 for the energy, renewable energy? How can this affect industrial wastewater? How can this affect tuberculosis studies and medications? How can this affect driving? That's what we're all doing here, right? That's why we're here. That's why you're learning this when you're, where's the seventh? I know there's 7th grader here, 8th graders. That's why you're starting at this level. And that's the most important thing I can tell you today is that make sure you understand, you do the background on the impact that you can have in this project. Okay? Any questions? All right. How much time do I have? Huh? I'm not going to go through each one of these in detail, because it's just a little bit more detail on what I talked about on the overall picture. The research introduction or hook, you have them both on the scientific areas and the engineering areas. We got the clear definition of purpose. Basically, you have a purpose, you have either a prediction or a hypothesis, and then you're going to talk a little bit about the material. So this is just kind of the same things that I've talked about in the hook. You have the main body, which is talking about the testing, whereas in scientific testing, you have a certain control, you have variables that you're running in trials. And on the engineering side, it's more, you have the blueprint and design, and you're testing until you can hopefully get the working prototype and the working model. And then the conclusion is, as you said, analysis. You're doing the data analysis, whether you're using statistics or other various tools to determine the data. You're looking at the overall application, as I said, the real world impact. And then you're looking also at current references. Very important. I didn't mention this previously, but references are so critical. Every board I've gone through and looked at today is, what are your references? What have you done for background research? Tell us what authors you've read, okay? What publications you've read. How do we know this? Over here we talk about novelty. How do you know it's novel, right? You have to look at the previous researches and say, okay, here's what I read, here's what I know out there from articles, here's why my research is novel, is original. So you cannot do enough background research. You cannot do enough background reading. Make sure that you do that, because the judges will ask you questions that you'll have to know the backgrounds on these. And then the last slide is on the cohesiveness we talked about. You've got the big picture. Make sure you have a nice title up there. I've seen some of the titles I really like. But the first thing that judges are going to look at is your title, right? They're going to look at the cover of that book. What's the cover of that book in the title? So make a nice, clear, talk about the big picture. Mention the novelty right away. Because guess what? At IBDA and at ISEF, guess what the creativity score is on the criteria out of 100? 20 points. 20 points out of 100 are given to novelty and creativity in a project. So why not mention it, if you can, in the title or the purpose, what you did new? Because you got 20 points right there, basically. You got to explain it a little bit more, but it takes care of 20 points when you explain the novelty. Make sure the hypothesis and goals are testable in the current project. We talked about feasibility. I've been to about 4 towns now. I've seen projects that were wonderful ideas, could make a huge impact in the country and even globally, but they're not feasible for the student to do in this time frame and this year. It's just not feasible. They can't get it done. So make sure whatever you're doing is feasible and can be testable. Make sure all their procedures and design cover your goals and your hypothesis. Make sure it's all taken care of, all the pictures. Make sure you use a lot of pictures. We talked about that today to a couple students. We see the posters, but make sure there's a visual, right? We want to see it. Not just, what do they say in English? A picture is worth 1,000 words, right? So let's see it. Let's see what you did. Let's see the results. Let's see the data. Let's see the graphs. So the judges can quickly evaluate you. Conclusion, you prove or disprove the hypothesis, or you mention how it relates to the goals. Make it very clear what happened in there. And then application is the final coverage of the big picture, or again, the impact. So the whole reason, that's why I wanted to talk to you today, because I want to make sure, just to sum up, I want to make sure that your project is a complete project. Number one, that's how you will be easily understood by the evaluators and those that are talking to you. Number two, it will allow you to, be judged correctly, because the criteria are all based on the completeness of the project. So make sure you have that introduction set, the hook. Make sure you've done the main body, you've done the experimentation, you've got the data, and make sure you wrap it up and come back to the conclusion by talking about the project's results and about the applications and future works. And remember, a big thing is that it's a year-long commitment. It's a year-long journey on this. So from this point to the Central Fairs, which are in December, to the National Fair, which is in February, even hopefully to ISEF, if you make that, you can improve every step. You can improve on your whole project, you can improve on your data collection, and you can improve on your communication skills. So don't worry if we were talking to you today, we're giving you all the adults here and all the supervisors and judges are giving you some good comments. Don't take them as negative. They're positive comments, because we want you to improve your project every step of the way, because that's what it's all about. So take that as good construction for the future of your project. So thank you very much. I wish you the best on your journey, whether it's in high school, undergraduate, and in your future. So thank you.
قد يكون في فرصة مناسبة ناخذ كذا سؤال قبل إن شاء الله ما نستكمل إن شاء الله الجولة على المشاريع. اللي عنده سؤال بإمكانه يرفع يده ويقوم ويعطيه باسمه تعالي. لو ترفع صوتك إذا سمحت. تفضل.
أقول عربي صراحة ما أدري.
Hi.
Yes. I would like to ask, when is it the best time to mention novelty in my project or anyone's?
Has anybody done IBDA before here? Any students? Anybody been in IBDA? What do you think the best time to mention novelty is? What do you think? Any student suggestions?
I haven't done before, but I'd imagine that when you begin as part of your hook to make them interested in this is something to look forward to. I said. Yes, okay. I said in the beginning with your hook, because it will really reel in the judges and let them know that they should focus more on this because of novelty.
Right. I think that's true. And I think, Dr. Isam, he judges and we all judge. And I think we're in our minds, we're thinking about what's new about, because in our background, we have our backgrounds, right? He's in chemistry, and I'm in environmental, and I'm in medicine and health. So we already start to think. We look at the title, and we're looking at the purpose, and we're always thinking in our minds, well, what's new about this? And as far as what I know, what I've seen in publications. So I think it's as soon as you can, get that novelty in there, whether it's by saying this is a new system, or it's a new model, or it's a new way of doing things. The purpose of my project is to introduce this new CRISPR-Cas9 system, or whatever it is. I think as soon as you can get that, and if the judge asks you more details, you can get more details. But I think right in the beginning is a good place to do that. Everybody know the criteria for judging? That's another question I get a lot, the criteria for IBDA and for ISEF. And you'll hear this at the center. On the presentation, right? On answering questions, on those type of things that make a difference. Because I can tell you that at ISEF, number one thing besides impact of your project is number two, can you communicate that? Am I interested in hearing from you? Do you make eye contact? Are you excited about your project? And that's such a big thing. Even though it's 35 points, there's probably even more because in the judges' minds, because if you're just sitting there and this is my project, and then or you're sitting down or you're chewing gum or something, it's like, well, the student's not really interested in it. But communicate your passion about the project. That's another question I get a lot. Yeah.
So let's say I haven't really gotten to the experiment yet, whether it's hypothetical or actually applied. What can I submit by this Tuesday?
That's a good question. What are the requirements? Are they don't have to submit data, right? Yeah.
Yeah. We could have the initial result, and later on, once you have, inshallah, with us in the central affairs, maybe you could provide some more details.
I think for now, I've been looking through some of the submissions so far. If you have the structure when you submit, it's going to happen, right? What you think based on your plan can happen. That'd be great. I'd love to see that. Dr. Issa, I was going to see if you wanted to add something. Yeah. Can you give him the mic?
Now we're going for electronic judging, and we have thousands of projects. So the more data you have, the more results you have, this will give you more opportunity to pass through. If it is only an assumption, or it's a theoretical assumption, or only an idea, the probability of moving forward is less, honestly speaking. So try to have some lab data, try to have as much information as possible incorporated in your project and your proposal to the electronic judging. Because we as judges look at the data, look at the results. We don't look at only the concept or the theory.
Dr. Is it okay to have, if they can't get official data, can they do a model or a prototype?
Definitely.
That can have some.
Definitely, they can have simulation, can have modeling, they can have predicted data, but it has to be scientific. It has to be predicted based on scientific basis. So you have the basis for this prediction, or you have a validated model to bring these data. But at least, or at last, data will talk. We only judge results and data. It's not just an idea. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead,
You talked about points and for introduction and stuff, but when I saw the إبداع, what's called, when you came and saw me, no one had a paper and put points for introduction and creativity. So I don't know. How are you going to count the points for all students? And you have like 50 students, and no one had a paper to write any points.
What do you mean by a paper? Like a
a paper, you write the name and the project and the number for the project, and they didn't.
Well, this is only for here. I mean, when you
Yeah.
submit it, we'll look at everything that's submitted online for the final evaluation.
But you didn't see like you're working for 12 years and you didn't see any way to just for the points for every student. Like you have a paper and write the points for every student.
Feedback, not evaluation.
You know, evaluation.
He was expecting an evaluation today.
What's that?
He was expecting an evaluation.
Oh, an evaluation
Yeah.
today. Are we doing? I don't know if do we do evaluations for today?
No, it wasn't. No.
ما نهدف إلى تقييم أو تحكيم. الفكرة أن حرصنا أن جبنا خبراء ومحكمين سواء في إبداع وآيسف يقدمون لكم تغذية راجعة تحسنون مشاريعكم وتجودونها قبل ما تسوون إن شاء الله رفع المعلومات المشروع اللي بتنتهي إن شاء الله بعد 3 أيام أو 4 أيام. فحرصنا أن المعرض يقام في هذا التاريخ، وشكر جزيل لأخواننا المنظمين من مدارس الطهران. تستفيدون من التغذية الراجعة بالإتيان بمحكمين سابقين وأيضا خبراء في هذا المجال في سواء في آيسف أو إبداع. ليس هدفنا اليوم سواء تحكيم أو تقييم المشاريع. التحكيم أول ما ترفع إن شاء الله معلومات المشروع سيبدأ إن شاء الله من قبل المحكمين في التحكيم الإلكتروني في يوم 6 نوفمبر. وستحصل على النتيجة إن شاء الله في نهاية شهر نوفمبر.
What about research papers? Research papers, are they required at IBDA? Research papers. Does anybody have one? Who's our SRSI? Do you have a research paper? So, do you have one, or you just raising your hand? So research papers are not required to put in at ISEF, or I'm sorry, at IBDA. But certainly, if you get to the point where you have collected enough data, research papers are valuable for the judges, evaluators to see that you've taken your time to develop a research paper. Some students, I think, in the past have even published. Right? They've done some publications with. You'd have to talk to your mentor, the principal investigator, but some have allowed you to publish, which is a great thing, not just for IBDA, but also for your CV for colleges and universities. Okay.
المحدود نختم هذا اللقاء القصير، لكن بإمكانكم ترجعون إلى التغذية الراجعة اللي تتم من خلالهم، وأيضا هذه الفرصة أيضا متاحة للخبراء اللي أتوا من قبل الإدارة العامة للموهوبين في المنطقة الشرقية. بإمكانكم أيضا تستفيدون من هذه التغذية قبل رفع معلومات المشروع، لأن إن شاء الله اللي ما تبقى فيها إلا أيام قليلة. تعرفون متى آخر يوم لرفع معلومات المشروع؟ أي يوم؟ الثلاثاء، بس لا يمنع ترى ترفعونها اليوم أو بكرة. الواحد لا ينتظر آخر دقيقة عشان يعني تحسبا لأي مشاكل تقنية، فبادروا برفع المعلومات المشروع أول ما تحسون أنها اكتملت تماما بإذن الله. يعطيكم العافية، بإمكاننا نرجع إن شاء الله.
هلا
اساس يعني مرور عليكم بقيه الزملاء، يعطيكم العافيه وشكرا يعني تعاونكم وشكرا كثير لصبركم، بارك الله فيكم.
أثبته هنا ولا ما يبي؟ أثبته؟ إيه. طيب. مناسب؟ الصوت واضح؟ السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. معكم أخوكم أنس بن عبد الرحمن الحنيحن، رئيس اللجنة التنفيذية للأولمبياد الوطني للإبداع العلمي إبداع 2022، وأيضا مدير إدارة البرامج البحثية وتنمية الابتكار بمؤسسة الملك عبد العزيز ورجاله للموهبة والإبداع. حقيقة سعدت وتشرفت بمشاهدة العديد من المشاريع المتميزة التي طرحها علينا نخبة من علماء وشباب المستقبل بإذن الله تعالى. جدا فخور بمستوى الطلبة، وهذا يعكس اهتمام المدرسة وقيادتها بالبحث العلمي وأيضا الابتكار. شهدت مشاريع من مستويات عالية جدا، أتمنى لهم كل التوفيق إن شاء الله والسداد. وهذه الفرصة أيضا قد تكون مناسبة لطلبة المدارس للاستفادة من برامج موهبة التي تقدمها مؤسسة في مجال البحث العلمي والابتكار. فلدينا العديد من البرامج، وأهمها برنامج موهبة الإثراء البحثي اللي يقدم في الصيف، بالإضافة إلى دعوة مفتوحة للمشاركة في برنامج حديث وهو برنامج أساسيات البحث العلمي المخصص بمرحلته المتوسطة والثانوية. مرة أخرى كل الشكر والتقدير على هذا التنظيم الرائع، والذي إن شاء الله نتمنى إن شاء الله وندعو الله العلي القدير أن يؤتي بثمار هذا الجهد المبارك بإذن الله تعالى. شكرا لكم. منتجونا طبعا. ها
شكرا
الله يسعدك
عزيزي،
يا هلا، شرف لنا. الله يسعدك ويبارك فيك. ما ترى أنا اللي قابلت